awak rakam video untuk saya.
Saya janji saya takkan save.
Should I do further?
Must be something wrong somewhere, kan?
Tak malu punya jantan.
Suka hati aku lah, Bobal.
Riot Rebel with a Cause. Stream episod baharu setiap Jumaat on demand dan Astro Premier.
Asia tumpuan utama dunia. Dengan ekonomi yang semakin rancak, pembangunan lestari dan tenaga boleh diperbaharui, apakah pula impak kecerdasan buatan AI dalam perkembangan teknologi dan masa depan pekerjaan? Kami mendalami setiap berita dan cerita. Saksikan diskusi, dialog dan laporan khas di Agenda Awani Asia bersama koresponden khas kami setiap Sabtu 9 malam di semua platform Astro Awani.
Hanya 90 saat untuk membuat target misteri gelap secara langsung. 24 peserta.
Sila buka pintu misteri.
68 target misteri. Gelak 90 saat di Astro Warna dan Astro Go.
Good evening, you're watching Awani Tonight with me, Farhan Asheh. The police will increase the level of security for Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim following threats over his outspoken support for Palestine. Inspector General of Police Tan Sri Razaruddin Hussein assures that the police will not compromise on this issue. However, he said most of the threats could be related to economic issues or the country's exports. Anwar had said he received several threats from Western nations, following Malaysia's firm stance in support of the rights of Palestinian people and its criticism of the Israeli government. This was revealed in his speech at the Malaysia Stands with Palestine rally at the Axiata Arena in Bukit Jalil yesterday. More than 16,000 people had flocked to the venue to show solidarity with the Palestinians. Razaruddin added that the rally was conducted in a controlled manner with more than 300 police officers involved. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim says the threats mentioned on Tuesday night came from European parliamentarians. He, however, affirms that Malaysia will not back down from its support for the people of Palestine.
Ada ahli Parlimen Eropah yang bagikan, nanti kita beri keterangan jelas dan kenyataan-kenyataan mereka, dan juga ada yang usul langsung dari salah seorang ahli Parlimen Eropah dah mula. Tak jadi masalah, jadi kita jangan hiraukan soal itu. Kita ada urusan kerja dan kita teruskan.
Jadi adakah dari segi keselamatan ataupun ekonomi?
Keselamatan Ketua Polis Negara ada, mereka akan uruskan, jadi saya tidak bimbang. InsyaAllah kita teruskan kerja kita. Kita terpaksa menyuarakan pandangan dari Malaysia.
Official letters sent to government departments must be in the national language. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim reminded that any letters written in a language other than Malay would be returned to the sender.
Jadi saya ingin peringatkan hal ini, kalau di kalangan syarikat tempatan dan universiti tempatan, termasuk universiti swasta, arahannya ialah siapa saja menulis dalam bahasa selain dari bahasa kebangsaan, surat itu akan dipulangkan.
Anwar said this was not a narrow-minded view, but rather one that stressed on the importance of the national language as part of nation building. He said there are some who deny the fundamentals of the federal constitution, which requires them to communicate with government departments in the national language. Anwar stressed that this directive should not be taken lightly, adding that a clearer directive on the matter would be issued by the Civil Service Department.
The government says chicken prices are becoming more stable amid concerns over the rising price of goods. Local Government Development Deputy Minister Akmal Nasrullah says this resulted from a fall in the poultry inflation rate to 0.9% in September from 5.7% in August. Akmal revealed the figures when responding to concerns over the declining ringgit leading to rising food costs in Parliament. He said the government was taking a more consistent approach to ensure price stability. Additionally, the Johor MP said Bank Negara Malaysia was currently monitoring the ringgit and would adjust the overnight policy rate OPR to regulate the exchange rate. He added that the inflation rate had slowed to 1.9% in September 2023, the lowest recorded in the past 30 months. Prime Minister Dato' Sri Anwar Ibrahim announced during his Budget 2024 speech that the temporary ceiling price for chicken and eggs would be lifted to allow the market to operate freely to ensure uninterrupted supply. In other news, Tasik Glugo MP Dato' Wan Saiful Wanjan has been charged with 18 counts of money laundering involving funds totaling around 5.59 million ringgit. He pleaded not guilty when the charges were read out at the Kuala Lumpur Sessions Court today. The 18 charges accuse Wan Saiful in his capacity as Director of WSA Advisory Ground St. John Berhad of using his company's accounts to launder funds from alleged illegal activities. The charges were brought under Section 41B of the Anti-Money Laundering, Anti-Terrorism Financing and Proceeds of Unlawful Activities Act 2001. If convicted, he faces up to 15 years imprisonment and a fine of 5 times the amount of gratification or 5 million ringgit. In February, the former PT-PTN chairman was charged with 2 counts of corruption involving 6.9 million ringgit in connection with the Jana Wibawa program. His bid to strike out the graft charges was dismissed by the Sessions Court in July. The citizenship application processing period has been reduced from 73 days to 14 days through an integrated security vetting system. Home Minister Dato' Sri Saifuddin Nasution Ismail said the system, launched by the National Registration Department in collaboration with the police, has made the application more efficient.
Previously, the citizenship application documents received by the National Registration Department were physically handed over to the police, but with this system, the documents will be submitted online. He added that the system will automatically reject an application if it finds that the applicant is involved with an organization that is considered dangerous and a threat to public order, as well as those who have overstayed. Separately, Saifuddin said the Cabinet would soon finalize the establishment of a single agency to regulate the country's borders.
The National Service Training Program, or PLKN, will be brought back with a different training approach, including requiring youth to undergo training at military camps. We speak to the Malaysian Youth Council Vice President Muhammad Khairul Azman Abdul Aziz about the move to bring back national service and how PLKN 3.0 will be different.
That we need to toughen up the younger generations of today, because the new generation today has become fragile mentally and physically. So I think it's important that this program should be carried out, and MBM or Malaysian Youth Council, we are for this program actually. And also, as I mentioned earlier, to instill unity elements so that they can engage with one another, because we have to understand this, our younger generations today, in fact our young people, they don't really have the opportunity to meet and blend with the other race, whether from school or outside the educational sector. There are limited spaces actually. So I think this is a very I would say optimum or the right platform for them to be in a closed ecosystem for 45 days, like I mentioned, so that they can really have a genuine interaction and engagement with one another, so that they can learn from one another, understand one another, and become a more responsible citizen.
Under PLKN 3.0, the session will only be held for 45 days instead of the previous 3 months. It will be conducted in 13 army camps nationwide, as well as 1 police training center, capable of accommodating 25,000 trainees per session.
I'm sure government and the agencies involved to actually upgrade and also bring this new refined program has taken steps to actually, decide what are the best time frame for that, with, of course, taking into considerations of the budget as well for the government. As we know, previous programs has cost about close to 500 to 700 million a year for this program. But the recent one, the minister have mentioned that this newly refined program will only cost less than 100 million a year. So taking into that consideration as well, with the balance of budget and also with the mission and vision to achieve something out of this, I'm sure 45 days would be adequate.
We will go for a quick break. Stay tuned for more.
Terbuka Perancis, suatu tahap intensiti yang tinggi.
Mesmerizing, breathtaking.
Memerlukan kepantasan dan ketepatan yang jitu.
Oh, excellent one.
Pertarungan hebat, dambaan para penonton.
It's good.
Persaingan sengit, tiada yang mustahil. Rasai dan alaminya. Terbuka Perancis secara langsung di Astro Supersport dan Astro Go.
Welcome back. The UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees says Gaza hospitals may be forced to shut down tonight due to acute fuel shortages. This as hospitals across the Gaza Strip are overwhelmed by huge numbers of casualties and civilians seeking shelter from Israeli bombing. Limited amount of medical supplies have been allowed over the Egypt-Gaza border in recent days, but Israel refuses to allow them to be distributed in the north, where most of the hospitals are in anticipation of a ground offensive. Meanwhile, Israel's representative to the UN has called for the resignation of the organization's Secretary General Antonio Guterres following his remarks on the Israel-Hamas war and action in Gaza. Israeli air attacks in Gaza on Tuesday killed at least 704 people, the highest 24-hour death toll so far, bringing the total death toll to over 5,700. Indonesian Defence Minister Prabowo Subianto has registered as a candidate in next year's presidential election, with the eldest son of incumbent Joko Widodo as his running mate. Their registration sets the stage for a three-way race on February 14th, when the world's third largest democracy will hold simultaneous presidential and parliamentary elections. Prabowo announced 36-year-old Gibran, the eldest son of Jokowi, as his running mate on Sunday, days after two other pairs of candidates registered last week. The 72-year-old Prabowo is seeking the presidency for the third time after narrowly losing in 2014 and 2019 to Jokowi, who is barred from running again by term limits. In his election manifesto, Prabowo pledged to continue the construction of Indonesia's new capital in Kalimantan and to develop downstream industries. Gibran, who is also mayor of Surakarta, said they would introduce loans for digital startups and continue to develop the mineral processing industry and the green economy. A former Special Forces commander, Prabowo has a lead in opinion polls over the two other contenders, former Provincial Governor Ganjar Pranowo and former Jakarta Governor Anies Baswedan. China will send its youngest ever crew of astronauts to its Tiangong space station this week. The Shenzhou 17 mission is gearing up for launch tomorrow, following its successful pre-launch rehearsal yesterday.
The mission marks China's sixth manned mission to the Chinese space station and second mission to Tiangong since the station's development in 2022. The crew has an average age of 38 compared to 42 for the crew of Shenzhou 16 when it launched. The mission commander Tang Hongbo is 48, while crew members Jiang Xinling and Tang Xinjie are 35 and 36 years old respectively. The Tiangong is the crown jewel of Beijing's space program, which has also landed robotic rovers on Mars and the Moon and made China the third country to put humans in orbit. Beijing also aims to send a crewed mission to the Moon by 2030 and plans to build a base on the lunar surface.
Hong Kong leader John Lee announced that the Chinese territory will table its own national security law in 2024. This comes 4 years after Beijing imposed sweeping legislation aimed at silencing dissent, with many critics calling the law a threat to freedoms and democratic processes. In his second ever policy address on Wednesday, Lee declared that external forces continue to undermine China and interfere in Hong Kong's affairs, emphasizing the need to safeguard national security and improve its legal system. The Beijing-appointed leader, however, did not go into detail at what the new national security law would entail. The current law was introduced after thousands took to the streets in 2019 as part of massive pro-democracy demonstrations that shook the financial center, demanding more freedom and independence from mainland China. It seeks to punish 4 major crimes: secession, subversion, terrorism, and collusion with foreign forces, with sentences ranging up to life in prison. Though met with criticism at home and abroad, the law has been used to arrest 280 people, 30 of whom had been convicted as of the end of September. That wraps up AWANI Tonight. I'm Fanashe. Thank you for watching.